The gun was already pointed at his chest before Jin Sang-kwon finished opening the door. He'd paid $3 million cash for an abandoned safe house in the Cascade Mountains. No questions asked, no paper trail, completely off-grid. The seller guaranteed it had been empty for 5 years. Perfect for a man whose enemies were closing in from Seoul to Seattle. But the woman standing in his newly purchased kitchen didn't look like empty. She looked like survival. Like fury wrapped in exhausted brown skin and surgical precision. Her finger rested on the trigger with the confidence of someone who'd already decided he was a threat. Behind her, 2 identical faces peered around the doorframe, twin boys, no older than 6, with eyes too old for their years. "Wrong house," she said, voice cold as the mountain air. "Turn around. Forget you saw us." Jin Sang didn't move. He'd survived 12 years in the Korean underworld by reading people, and this woman wasn't bluffing. She was terrified. And terrified people were the most dangerous kind. If you love dark mafia romance with forbidden attraction and high-stakes drama, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because this story is about to get intense. Drop a comment telling me, would you trust a mafia boss or run? Now, let's get into what happened when 2 people with blood on their hands found something worth protecting. Jin Sang-kwon hadn't planned on dying in America. Korea had become too hot, the Jopak syndicate wars had turned Seoul's underground into a bloodbath, and when the Yakuza started whispering his name in alliance talks, Jin Sang knew it was time to disappear. Not retire. Men like him didn't get retirement parties. But disappear long enough for the chaos to settle, for memories to fade, for the next ambitious underboss to become everyone's favorite target. The Cascade Mountain property was supposed to be his ghost house. Remote enough that satellites barely registered it, tucked into 70 acres of pine and shadow 40 miles outside Portland. The previous owner, a Russian arms dealer who'd met an unfortunate end, had built it as a panic room with a view. Jin Sang had paid extra for the furniture to remain. For the generator. For the buried fuel tanks and the security system that didn't ping any legal grid. What he hadn't paid for was occupancy. The November rain had turned to sleet by the time his Range Rover climbed the final unmarked road. His lieutenant, Dae-young, sat in the passenger seat, hand resting casually on his concealed weapon, a habit from 20 years of keeping Jin Sang alive. "Smoke," Dae-young said, pointing. Jin Sang saw it. Thin, nearly invisible against the gray sky, but definitely smoke. Coming from the house's chimney. His house. They parked 50 yards out. Approached on foot. Professional. Silent. That's when he saw the clothesline, small shirts and pants, child-sized, whipping in the wind. A vegetable garden, struggling but maintained, near the east side. Fresh footprints in the mud, too small to be an adult's. "Children," Dae-young muttered in Korean. The intelligence said empty. Intelligence was wrong. Jin Sang moved to the front door. Tested the handle. Unlocked. That alone told him whoever was inside either had nothing worth stealing or everything worth defending. He opened the door. The gun appeared instantly, Glock 19, modified grip, held in a 2-hand stance that spoke of training, not luck. The woman behind it was younger than he expected, maybe late 20s, with box braids pulled back from a face carved from bone-deep exhaustion and something harder. Something that looked like wrath, buried under survival. She wore layered clothing, all too big, probably grabbed from donation bins. Her eyes tracked both him and Dae-young with the hyper-awareness of prey that had learned to bite back. "Wrong house," she repeated. "Leave. Now." Jin Sang raised his empty hands slowly. "This is my house. I have the deed. I don't care if you have a signed letter from God. We were here first." "For how long?" Her jaw tightened. "Long enough." One of the twins, boys, he saw now, with their mother's dark eyes and matching buzz cuts, whispered something. The woman's grip shifted microscopically. Not lowering the weapon, but accounting for the distraction. Amateur tell. But the desperation behind it was pure professional. "My name is Jin Sang-kwon," he said carefully. "I bought this property legally. I don't know who you're hiding from, but I'm not here to hurt children. Legally. She laughed, bitter. Men like you don't do anything legally. Men like me? I know who you are. Her eyes flicked to the tattoo barely visible above his collar, the three-fingered crow of the Kwan family syndicate. I know what that mark means. So don't stand in my house and talk about legal. Then you know, Jin Sang said quietly, that if I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. The gun is for your comfort, not your safety. Dae-young tensed beside him, but Jin Sang raised a hand slightly. Wait. The woman stared at him for 10 long seconds. Then, slowly, she lowered the weapon, but didn't put it down. Zariah, she said. Not a surrender. An exchange of information. Zariah Williams. These are my sons, Malik and Marcus. And before you ask, no, I'm not leaving. Shoot me if you want, but my boys are staying. Why would I shoot you? Because that's what men with power do when women like me become inconvenient. There was a story there. Jin Sang could taste it, metallic and dark, like blood in water. He lowered his hands. I came here to disappear, not to displace refugees. Tell me what you're running from. Why would I tell you anything? Because I'm a bastard, Ms. Williams, but I'm not wasteful. You've maintained this property. The garden, the structure, the chimney repair I can see from here. You've been useful. I respect useful. Respect. She said it like a curse. Is that what you call it in the Mafia? I call it leverage. You need a place to hide. I need information about who might know about this location. We can help each other. Or you could kill me and take what you want. Jin Sang smiled, cold and precise. If you believe that, you'd have shot me when I opened the door. You're many things, Ms. Williams, desperate, exhausted, clearly dangerous when cornered. But you're not stupid. So let's skip the theater and talk like adults. Zariah stared at him. Then, finally, she engaged the safety and set the gun on the table, within reach, he noted. Always within reach. They call me Black Widow, she said. Want to guess why? The story came out slowly, with Dae-young standing guard and the twins eating the instant noodles Jin Sang had Dae-young prepare from their supplies. Zariah spoke in the flat, affectless tone of someone who told this story to police, to lawyers, to empty rooms at 3 in the morning when sleep wouldn't come. Her husband, Terrence Williams, had been an accountant. Boring job, good man, loved his sons. He'd taken a contract position with a real estate development firm called Pacific Crest Holdings, legitimate on paper, but a front for laundering money from half a dozen criminal organizations, including the Brava, the Sinaloa Pipeline, and a Korean syndicate with business interests in West Coast port cities. Terrence had been good at math. Too good. He'd noticed the patterns, the shell companies, the inflated invoices, the properties purchased with cash and left empty. He'd started documenting it. Quietly. Carefully. Not carefully enough. They made it look like a robbery, Zariah said, staring at nothing. Shot him outside our apartment. Took his wallet, his watch. Police wrote it up as wrong place, wrong time. But I knew. Because the day before he died, Terrence told me he'd found something bad. Something that connected the development company to human trafficking routes through the port of Seattle. Jin Sang went very still. Human trafficking? Container ships. False manifests. Women and children smuggled in from Asia, Eastern Europe, South America. Pacific Crest Holdings owned the warehouses where the containers were delayed for inspection. Except the inspections were bought off, and the cargo disappeared into the night. And your husband documented this. Everything. Financial records, shipping logs, photographs he took of the warehouse district. He was going to the FBI. Zariah's voice hardened. But someone found out. Someone always finds out. Where is the evidence now? She looked at him, eyes sharp. Why? So you can destroy it? Protect your friends? I don't have friends in human trafficking, Ms. Williams. I have standards. Standards. She laughed, harsh. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman in a criminal enterprise. There's a difference. I deal in protection, in territory, in money that was already dirty. Not in cages. Never in cages. His voice dropped to something colder than the mountain air. If your husband's evidence connects to the Kwan family business, I need to know. Because if my people are involved, they're acting without my sanction. And that's a problem I will solve personally. Zariah studied him. Weighing. Calculating. The evidence is hidden, she finally said. Encrypted files, physical documents. Terrence left me instructions before he died, where to find it, how to access it. But I can't use it. I went to the FBI, to the police, to a journalist. Within 24 hours, my apartment was raided by men with no badges. They tore everything apart. Told me if I talked, my sons would disappear into the same containers Terrence tried to expose. So you ran. I ran. Changed our names, burned through our savings, kept moving. 9 months of shelters and motel rooms and looking over my shoulder. Then I found this place. It was supposed to be abandoned. Forgotten. I thought. She shook her head. I thought we could finally breathe. Jean Sang looked at the twins, Malik and Marcus, eating noodles with the mechanical efficiency of children who'd learned hunger. 6 years old, maybe 7. The same age Jean Sang had been when his father introduced him to the family business with a knife and a lesson in loyalty. He'd sworn, back then, that he'd never let children suffer for adult sins. Some promises were harder to keep than others. The property deed, Zariah said suddenly. Who sold it to you? A shell company. Managed by a lawyer in Seattle. Pacific Crest Holdings? Jean Sang's expression didn't change, but Dae-young swore softly in Korean. No, Jean Sang said. But I can check the corporate registry. See who owns what. They own this land, Zariah said flatly. They sold you a safe house they've been using as a black site. I found zip ties in the basement. Industrial cleaning supplies. Soundproofing panels. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Jean Sang stood. Show me. This is getting darker than I expected, and we're only halfway through. If you're hooked, smash that like button. It tells me you want more stories like this. And comment below, do you think Jean Sang can actually protect Zariah, or is he part of the problem? Don't go anywhere, because what happens next changes everything. The basement confirms Zariah's story. Jean Sang stood in the middle of the concrete space, cataloging details with the professional detachment that had kept him alive in rooms much worse than this. The soundproofing panels were industrial grade, recently installed. The drain in the floor was too large, too well maintained. The hooks in the ceiling beam weren't for hanging tools. Dae-young examined the zip ties, commercial strength, bulk packaging, the kind bought in quantities that suggested repeated use. This was a holding facility, Dae-young said in Korean. Recent, maybe in the last year. And they sold it to me. Jean Sang's voice was silk over razor wire. Why? Maybe they stopped using it. Too remote, too hard to monitor. Or maybe, Zariah said from the stairs, she'd followed them down, gun back in her hand, they knew exactly who you were and wanted to see what you'd do when you found me. Jean Sang turned. Explain. You're Kwan Jean Sang. I looked you up after Terrence died, when I was trying to understand the players. You run the Pacific Northwest operations for one of the biggest Korean syndicates in the world. You've got legitimate businesses, political connections, enough money to buy silence. She descended the stairs slowly. But you've also got a reputation. You don't deal in human trafficking. You've killed men in your own organization who tried to start that pipeline. You've done your homework. I had to. Because when I saw that tattoo on your neck, I had about 5 seconds to decide if you were here to kill me or if you were my only chance at staying alive. And which did you decide? Zariah met his eyes. Still deciding. The moment stretched between them, dangerous, electric, weighted with the kind of tension that came from two predators circling each other, trying to determine if they were enemies or allies. Jean Sang broke it first. You're right about my reputation. Human trafficking is a line I don't cross. It's also a line I enforce. If Pacific Crest Holdings is operating in my territory without my knowledge, using my purchased property as a black site, then someone is moving against me. Or testing you, Zoraya said. Explain. You disappeared from Korea. Suddenly, quietly. That suggests weakness to your enemies. What better way to test if you're still a threat than to see if you'll ignore a trafficking operation in your own backyard? If you do nothing, they know you're weak. If you act, they know where you are. Jin Sang smiled, sharp, dangerous, genuinely impressed. You think tactically, Ms. Williams. I think like someone who's been hunted for 9 months. You learn to see the patterns. Then you'll appreciate this pattern. I don't like being tested. And I don't forgive people who use children as bait. He pulled out his phone, typed a rapid message. Dae-young, I want full intelligence on Pacific Crest Holdings. Corporate structure, known associates, financial transactions for the last 18 months. Cross-reference with every organization that knows I'm in Portland. That will take time, Dae-young said. You have 6 hours. Dae-young nodded and disappeared upstairs. Zoraya lowered her gun slightly. What are you going to do? What I do best, Ms. Williams. I'm going to find out who's playing games with my territory, and I'm going to remind them why that's a bad idea. He started toward the stairs, then paused. Your husband's evidence. I'll need it. No. No. That evidence is the only thing keeping me alive. The moment I hand it over, I'm disposable. You're disposable right now, Jin Sang said bluntly. You're a woman with no money, no protection, and 2 children. The only thing keeping you alive is luck and geography. I'm offering you something better. What? Alliance. You give me the evidence. I use it to destroy Pacific Crest Holdings and everyone connected to it. In exchange, I protect you and your sons. Legitimate protection. Safe house, new identities, enough money to start over somewhere they'll never find you. And if you're lying? Then you die. But you're going to die anyway if you keep running on your own. At least this way, you have a chance. He met her eyes. And your sons have a future. Zoraya's hand tightened on the gun. I don't trust you. Good. Trust is for fools. But you can trust this. I want the people who used my property for trafficking dead more than I want you dead. That makes us temporary allies. Use me, Ms. Williams. Before someone else finds you. She stared at him for a long moment. Then, the evidence is in a storage unit in Tacoma. Paid up for another 3 months under a false name. Give me the address. After you prove you're serious. After you show me you can actually protect my sons. Jin Sang smiled. Careful, Ms. Williams. You're negotiating like you have leverage. I do. You need what I have. That's leverage enough. He laughed, genuine, surprised, dark. I like you. That's unfortunate. Why unfortunate? Because liking people is a weakness in my world. And I can't afford weakness right now. He walked upstairs, leaving Zoraya in the basement with the hooks and the drain and the evidence of atrocities. She stood there for a long time, hands steady on the gun, heart hammering against her ribs. Then she followed him up. Because he was right about one thing, she was going to die if she kept running alone. And she'd promised Terrence, as he bled out on the pavement, that she'd keep their sons safe. Even if it meant making a deal with the devil. Jin Sang spent the next 3 days proving himself. First, he moved Zoraya and the twins into the main house, not the basement, not the cold eastern wing, but the master suite with the fireplace and the reinforced windows and the panic room hidden behind the bookshelf. He had Dae-young install a secondary security system, one that only Zoraya controlled. Why? She'd asked, suspicious. Because if you don't feel safe, you'll run. And if you run, I lose access to the evidence. Pragmatism, Ms. Williams. Not kindness. But he'd also had medical supplies delivered. Good ones. And clothes for the twins, sized correctly. And food, real food, not just dried goods and canned soup. Malik had looked at the fresh fruit like it was treasure. Marcus had cried. Zariah had watched Jin Sang carefully, trying to reconcile the man who ordered executions with the man who remembered that 6-year-olds needed vitamin C. Second, Jin Sang made his move against Pacific Crest Holdings. It started with money, frozen accounts, disrupted transactions, shipments that mysteriously disappeared. He called in favors from judges, from port authorities, from the kind of people who owed him blood debts. Within 48 hours, Pacific Crest Holdings was hemorrhaging cash and credibility. Then came the meeting. Jin Sang arranged it for neutral ground, a private room at an upscale restaurant in downtown Portland. He brought Dae-young and 2 other lieutenants. Pacific Crest sent their CEO, Marcus Holloway, and their head of security, a former Spetsnaz operative named Viktor Petrov. Zariah watched via laptop from the mountain house, the video feed coming from a pin camera on Dae-young's lapel. Mr. Kwon, Holloway said, smiling the oily smile of a man who thought money made him untouchable. To what do we owe the pleasure? You sold me property, Jin Sang said. Cascade Mountain, 70 acres. $3 million, cash. I remember. Beautiful land. I hope you're enjoying it. I am. Except for the soundproofing panels in the basement. And the industrial drain. And the hooks. Jin Sang's voice didn't rise, didn't sharpen. It simply existed, cold and factual. Want to explain what I bought, Mr. Holloway? The smile faltered. I don't know what you're talking about. Then let me educate you. Jin Sang slid a folder across the table. Shipping manifests. False customs declarations. Photographs of containers that were supposed to hold electronics but actually held people. All of it connected to warehouses your company owns. Holloway didn't open the folder. That's absurd. We're a real estate development firm. You're a money laundering front for human traffickers. And you've been operating in my territory without permission. Your territory? Holloway's voice rose. You don't own Portland. No. But I own the silence that lets businesses like yours exist. And I'm withdrawing that service. Viktor Petrov leaned forward, hand moving toward his jacket. Dae-young was faster, gun out, aimed, ready. Jin Sang didn't even blink. Before you do something stupid, Victor, understand this. I have evidence connecting Pacific Crest Holdings to 17 shipping containers, 43 missing women and children, and a corruption network that includes 3 customs officials and a federal judge. That evidence is currently in a lawyer's possession with instructions to release it to the FBI, the Seattle Times, and CNN if anything happens to me. You're bluffing, Holloway said. Am I? Jin Sang smiled. Test me. Please. The silence stretched. Then Petrov slowly removed his hand from his jacket. Empty. Good choice, Jin Sang said. Now, here's what's going to happen. Pacific Crest Holdings is going to dissolve. Quietly. You'll liquidate assets, pay out investors, and disappear. If you do this cleanly, you get to live. If you resist, if you try to continue operations, if you even think about retaliating. You'll what? Holloway demanded. Kill us? You're one man. I'm one man with a syndicate, a reputation, and absolutely nothing to lose. Jin Sang stood. You have 72 hours. After that, the evidence goes public and I stop playing nice. He walked out. The video feed cut. Zariah sat in the mountain house, heart pounding, watching the empty screen. Jin Sang returned 4 hours later, stepping through the door like he'd been out for groceries instead of threatening traffickers. They'll try to kill you, Zariah said. Probably. You just made yourself a target. I've been a target since I was 12 years old, Ms. Williams. I'm used to it. Why? She stood, facing him. Why risk this? You could have just destroyed the evidence, killed me, pretended you never found anything. Why start a war? Jin Sang looked at her, really looked, for the first time since he'd found her with a gun pointed at his chest. Because, he said quietly, I've done terrible things in my life. I've hurt people. Killed people. Built an empire on blood and fear. But I've never put children in cages. And I won't let it happen in my city. So this is about your reputation. This is about the line between monster and man, Ms. Williams. I know which side I'm on. But I get to choose how far into the dark I go. And human trafficking is too far. Zariah stared at him. At the tattoos visible at his collar. At the scars on his knuckles. At the eyes that had seen too much death to fear it anymore. You're not what I expected, she said. Neither are you. What did you expect? A victim. Someone broken and desperate. He tilted his head slightly. But you're not broken. You're angry. And anger is so much more useful than fear. Is that why you're helping me? Because I'm useful? I'm helping you because your husband died trying to do the right thing, and his sons deserve better than to grow up in hiding. Jin Sang's voice dropped. And because when I look at them, I see myself at that age. And I remember what it felt like to be powerless. The moment hung between them, fragile, honest, dangerous. Then Malik appeared in the doorway, clutching a stuffed animal Dae-young had brought. Mom? Is the scary man staying? Zariah knelt, pulling her son close. Yeah, baby. He's staying. Is he gonna protect us? She looked up at Jin Sang. I think so. Good, Malik whispered. I'm tired of running. Jin Sang felt something crack in his chest, a fissure in the armor he'd built over 20 years of survival. He'd come to this mountain to hide from his enemies. Instead, he'd found something worth fighting for. The retaliation came on the fourth day. Zariah woke to the sound of glass shattering, not the windows, those were bulletproof, but the side mirror on Jin Sang's Range Rover. She grabbed her gun, instinct from 9 months of running, and found Jin Sang already at the window, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Korean. How many? He asked when he hung up. Dae-young appeared from the hallway, armed. 3 vehicles. 8 men. They parked 2 miles down the mountain road and hiked in. Pacific Crest. Petrov's men. Professional. Jin Sang's expression didn't change. Get the woman and children to the panic room. I'm not hiding, Zariah said. He turned, eyes sharp. This isn't negotiable. You're right. It's not. Because this is my fight. They killed my husband. They've been hunting me for 9 months. I'm not hiding while you handle my problems. You have children. Which is exactly why I'm fighting. You think I survived this long by hiding? I survived by learning to shoot back. Jin Sang studied her. Then, to Dae-young, take the twins to the panic room. Give Ms. Williams body armor and a rifle. Sir. Do it. 5 minutes later, Zariah was wearing a tactical vest and holding an AR-15 she handled with surprising competence. Jin Sang had positioned his 4 men at strategic points around the property. He took the eastern approach. Zariah took the western. Stay low, he told her. Don't be a hero. Same to you. He almost smiled. Ms. Williams, I stopped being a hero a long time ago. Then the gunfire started. It was professional, coordinated, suppressive fire designed to pin them down while a secondary team moved on the house. But Jin Sang had fought in syndicate wars where ammunition was cheaper than mercy. He moved through the trees like smoke, flanking 2 of Petrov's men and dropping them with double taps that were more execution than combat. Zariah, on the western approach, proved she wasn't bluffing about knowing how to shoot. When 3 men tried to breach through the garden, she lit them up with controlled bursts that forced them into cover, then radioed their positions to Dae-young. The fight lasted 8 minutes. When it was over, 4 men were dead, 3 were wounded and fleeing, and 1, Viktor Petrov himself, was on his knees in the mud with Jin Sang's gun pressed to his temple. You made a mistake, Jin Sang said softly. Fuck you, Petrov spat. Wrong answer. Jin Sang pulled the trigger. Zariah watched from 20 feet away, rifle still raised, as Petrov's body collapsed into the mud. She waited for the horror, the revulsion, the moral crisis. It didn't come. Instead, she felt satisfied. Jin Sang turned, blood spatter on his collar, and met her eyes. Looking for judgment, maybe. Or disgust. He had it coming, Zariah said. Yes. He did. Is this what your life is like? Fighting and killing and always looking over your shoulder? Every day. Sounds exhausting. It is. He walked toward her, gun lowered. Are you all right? I shot at people. I might have killed someone. She looked at her hands. They were steady. I should feel bad about that. But you don't. No. Does that make me a monster? It makes you a survivor, Ms. Williams. There's a difference. Zariah laughed, sharp and bitter. Is there? Because right now, standing here with blood in the dirt and my sons hiding in a panic room, I'm not sure I know the difference anymore. Jean Sang reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently lowered her rifle. The difference is that monsters enjoy it. Survivors just do what's necessary. Which one are you? She met his eyes. Still deciding. Good. The day you stop deciding is the day you become like me. And what are you? Damned, he said simply. But trying to be less damned tomorrow than I was yesterday. Something shifted between them in that moment, a recognition, understanding that went beyond words. They were both people who'd seen too much, survived too much, compromised too much. Both trying to protect something precious in a world that wanted to take everything. Dae-young interrupted. Sir, we need to clean this up and move. Police will investigate the gunfire. We own the police in this county, Jean Sang said, but you're right. It's time to relocate. Where? Zariah asked. Seattle. I have a safe house in Belltown, secure, defensible, close to resources we'll need. He looked at her. Unless you prefer to disappear on your own. With Petrov's people hunting me? And Pacific Crest still operational? I'll dismantle Pacific Crest within the week. But it will be loud. Public. The kind of attention that makes enemies. Good, Zariah said. Let them come. I'm done running. Jean Sang smiled, a real smile this time, sharp and dark and genuinely pleased. Black Widow indeed. The Seattle safe house was a penthouse in a building Jean Sang owned through 3 shell companies. Bulletproof windows, reinforced doors, enough security to make a paranoid dictator feel safe. Malik and Marcus adjusted with the resilience of children who'd learned that home was wherever mom said it was. Jean Sang had enrolled them in a private school under false names, with enough money to smooth over any questions about background checks. Zariah watched her sons play video games in the living room, an Xbox Jean Sang had bought without asking, along with a collection of age-appropriate games, and tried to reconcile her reality. A month ago, she'd been sleeping in an abandoned cabin, rationing canned food, and teaching her children how to run if strangers came. Now she was living in luxury with a Korean Mafia boss who'd killed 4 men to protect her and bought her sons a gaming console. You're thinking too hard, Jean Sang said from the doorway. She didn't jump. She'd gotten used to his silent movements. I'm thinking I don't understand you. What's to understand? You're a criminal. You've killed people. Built an empire on violence. But you also. She gestured at the twins. You bought them toys. Children should have toys. Why do you care? Jean Sang was quiet for a moment. Then, when I was 7, my father brought me to my first execution. A man who'd stolen from the family business. My father handed me a knife and told me to help. To learn loyalty. He stared at nothing. I still remember the sound. The smell. The way the man begged. Zariah's throat tightened. That's awful. That's the life I was born into. No choice, no escape. Just blood and obedience. He looked at the twins. Your sons didn't choose this. They deserve better. So I make sure they have better, even if it's just for a little while. You're trying to atone. I'm trying to be slightly less of a monster. It's not the same thing. Zariah stood, crossing to him. They were close now, close enough that she could see the scars on his neck, the tattoos that told a story of violence and survival. Close enough to feel the heat of him, the coiled danger that never fully relaxed. "I don't think you're a monster," she said quietly. "Then you're not paying attention, Ms. Williams. Stop calling me that. My name is Soraya." "Soraya." He said it like he was tasting it. "It suits you. Strong. Sharp. And what should I call you? Mr. Kwon? Sir? Boss?" Jean sang. Just Jean sang. Jean sang, she repeated. The intimacy of his given name felt dangerous. "Thank you. For protecting my sons. I'm not doing it for thanks." "Then why?" He looked at her, really looked, with the intensity of a man who'd spent his life reading people for threats and tells and weaknesses. "Because when I'm with you, I remember what it feels like to want to be better instead of just stronger." The air between them charged, electric and heavy. Soraya knew she should step back. Should remember that this man was dangerous, that he'd killed people in front of her, that getting close to him was a risk she couldn't afford. But she'd been running for 9 months. She was tired of fear. So instead of stepping back, she stepped forward, closing the distance, and kissed him. It was brief, testing, a question more than a statement. Jean sang went very still. Then his hand came up, cupping her jaw with surprising gentleness, and he kissed her back, deeper, hungrier, with the intensity of a man who'd forgotten what softness felt like. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Soraya whispered, "Tell me this is a bad idea." "This is a terrible idea," Jean sang said. "Why?" "Because I'm in the middle of a war. Because people want me dead. Because anyone close to me becomes a target." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "Because you deserve someone who can give you a normal life, and I can't even promise you tomorrow. I don't want normal. Normal got my husband killed and my sons hunted. I want someone who fights back. I'll ruin you, Soraya. Maybe I'm already ruined. You're not. Not yet. But stay with me, and you will be." She smiled, dark and certain. "Then ruin me," Jean sang. "Because I'm not going anywhere." He kissed her again, and this time it wasn't a question. It was a promise. Destroying Pacific Crest Holdings took Soraya's evidence, Jean Sang's resources, and a journalist willing to risk everything for the story. Her name was Sandra Chen, an investigative reporter for the Seattle Times who'd been tracking trafficking routes for 3 years. When Jean Sang approached her with Terrence's documentation, she didn't ask how he got it. She just started writing. The story broke on a Tuesday morning, Pacific Crest Holdings, how a real estate firm became a human trafficking pipeline. 47 pages of evidence. Shipping manifests. Financial records. Photographs of containers, warehouses, and the people who'd disappeared. Testimony from survivors, arranged by Jean Sang through his network, protected by his money and his threats. And at the center of it all, Marcus Holloway, CEO, and his network of corrupt officials, customs agents, and international partners. By Tuesday afternoon, the FBI had raided Pacific Crest's offices. By Wednesday, Holloway was arrested at SeaTac Airport trying to flee to the Cayman Islands. By Thursday, 3 federal judges and a dozen officials had resigned or been suspended. By Friday, Jean Sang's phone wouldn't stop ringing. "You've made powerful enemies," Dae-Young said, scrolling through threat assessments. "The Bratva is unhappy. The Sinaloa contacts are pulling out of Seattle. And the Yakuza." "The Yakuza what?" "They want a meeting." Jean Sang's expression darkened. "When?" "Tonight. Neutral ground. They're sending Takashi Yamamoto." Soraya, listening from the kitchen where she'd been making coffee, tensed. She'd learned enough about Jean Sang's world to know that name. Takashi Yamamoto wasn't just Yakuza, he was the Yakuza, the Oyabun who controlled the entire West Coast operation. "What do they want?" she asked. "To find out if I'm weak or if I'm insane," Jean Sang said. "Destroying Pacific Crest hurt their money pipeline. They'll want compensation. Or blood. And if you don't give them either? Then we go to war with the Yakuza. Which means a lot of people die, including possibly us. Zaraya set down her coffee. Can you win? Maybe. If I'm willing to burn everything I've built and turn Seattle into a war zone. He looked at her. Is that what you want? More violence? More death? I want my sons safe. Then I'll meet with Yamamoto. Try to negotiate. And if negotiation fails? Then I'll kill him and deal with the consequences. Zaraya crossed to him, taking his face in her hands. You don't have to do this alone. Yes, I do. This is my world, Zaraya. My choices, my sins. I won't drag you deeper into this. Too late. I'm already here. And I'm not letting you walk into a meeting with the Yakuza without backup. You're not coming. The hell I'm not. They stared at each other, stubborn, fierce, both unwilling to bend. Finally, Jin-sang sighed. You stay in the car. Armed, with Dae-young. If anything goes wrong, you drive away and don't look back. Fine. I mean it, Zaraya. If I die, you take your sons and disappear. Use the accounts I've set up. The new identities. Don't try to avenge me. Just survive. You're not going to die. Probably not. But if I do, promise me you'll run. Zaraya kissed him, hard and desperate. I promise. It was a lie. They both knew it. The meeting was set for a warehouse in the industrial district, neutral ground, no weapons, 3 people per side. Jin-sang brought Dae-young and his most trusted lieutenant, a stone-faced enforcer named Min-jun. Yamamoto brought 2 men in expensive suits and cold eyes. Zaraya watched from the SUV parked a block away, night vision binoculars in hand, gun on her lap. He's good at this, Dae-young said quietly, watching the warehouse. Negotiation. De-escalation. He'll find a way. And if he doesn't? Then we get you out of Seattle before the shooting starts. Inside the warehouse, Jin-sang faced Takashi Yamamoto across a folding table, 2 apex predators, measuring each other. Kwan-san, Yamamoto said in accented English. You've caused quite the disruption. I eliminated a trafficking ring operating without sanction in my territory, Jin-sang replied in flawless Japanese. That's good business. It was our business. Pacific Crest moved product for us. Containers, routes, distribution. You've cost us $17 million in lost revenue. Then you should have asked permission before operating in Seattle. This is Kwan territory. Has been for 6 years. Territory you abandoned when you fled Korea. I didn't flee. I relocated. There's a difference. Yamamoto smiled, thin and dangerous. Is there? Because from where I sit, you look like a man hiding from his failures. And now you're making noise, drawing attention, disrupting business. That suggests weakness. Or desperation. It suggests standards, Yamamoto-san. I don't traffic in human beings. I made that clear when I took this territory. Anyone who violates that policy answers to me. Even if it means war with the Yakuza. Even then. The silence stretched. Then Yamamoto laughed, genuine, surprised. You're either very brave or very stupid, Kwan-san. I'm practical. Human trafficking brings federal attention. Task forces, investigations, the kind of scrutiny that hurts all of us. Pacific Crest was a liability. I removed it before it became everyone's problem. And made yourself rich and righteous in the process. I made myself clear. This is my city. These are my rules. If you want to do business in Seattle, you do it my way. Otherwise. Jin-sang shrugged. There are other ports. Yamamoto studied him. You've changed since Korea. You used to be more flexible. I used to be a lot of things. Now I'm just tired of cleaning up other people's mistakes. Or perhaps, Yamamoto said softly, you found something worth protecting. I hear you have a woman. African American, 2 children. Living in your penthouse. Jin Sang's expression didn't change, but his hand moved fractionally closer to the gun hidden at his back. Careful, Yamamoto-san. You're about to make this personal. It's already personal. You cost me money. I want compensation. Name your price. The woman. And the evidence she has. No. Then we have a problem. Yes, Jin Sang said quietly. We do. Outside, Zaraya saw the body language shift, Jin Sang's shoulders tightening, Yamamoto's men reaching for weapons. Something's wrong, she said. Dae-young swore. He's going to fight. Then so am I. Zaraya opened the car door. Wait. But she was already moving, rifle in hand, crossing the street toward the warehouse with the lethal purpose of a woman who'd made her choice. She kicked open the side door just as guns were drawn. Nobody move, she shouted. Every head turned. Zaraya stood in the doorway, AR-15 raised, aimed at Yamamoto's head. I'm the woman you're talking about. The Black Widow. And if you think I'm some kind of leverage, you're stupider than you look. Yamamoto's eyes widened. Then he smiled. Ah. The famous Black Widow. You're younger than I expected. And you're older. But my bullet doesn't care about age. She stepped forward. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave Seattle. You're going to write off your losses. And you're going to spread the word that Jin Sang Quan is not weak, not desperate, and definitely not someone you fuck with. Or what? Or I release the rest of my husband's evidence. The files he compiled on Yakuza operations. Shipping routes, money laundering networks, political contacts. All of it. To the FBI, the DEA, and every journalist I can find. Yamamoto's smile faded. You're bluffing. Am I? She pulled a USB drive from her pocket, tossed it on the table. That's a sample. Bank transfers connecting the Yakuza to Pacific Crest. Enough to start a federal investigation that will get your West Coast operations. The rest is in a secure location, ready to be released if anything happens to me, Jin Sang, or my children. You have no idea what you're starting. I know exactly what I'm starting. The question is, do you want to finish it? Because I've got nothing to lose, Yamamoto-san. They already killed my husband. Already hunted my children. I'm not afraid of you. I'm just angry. And angry people are very, very dangerous. The warehouse was silent. Then Yamamoto started laughing. Quan-san, you didn't tell me your woman had teeth. You didn't ask, Jin Sang said, eyes on Zaraya with something that looked like pride and fury and desire all mixed together. I like her, Yamamoto said. She reminds me of my third wife. Before she tried to poison me. Flattering, Zaraya said dryly. Yamamoto stood. Very well, Black Widow. You've made your point. I'll withdraw from Seattle. Write off the losses. Consider it a gesture of respect for your audacity. And the threats against us? Rescinded. You and Quan-san have earned a ceasefire. For now. He looked at Jin Sang. But if you disrupt my business again, Quan-san, I won't be so generous. Understood. Yamamoto and his men left. The moment they were gone, Jin Sang turned to Zaraya. What the hell were you thinking? I was thinking you might need backup. I told you to stay in the car. And I told you I'm not hiding anymore. She lowered the rifle. We're partners, Jin Sang. In this fight, in this life. You don't get to protect me by shutting me out. You could have been killed. So could you. But we weren't. Because we're stronger together. Jin Sang stared at her. Then he pulled her into a fierce kiss, one hand tangled in her braids, the other gripping her waist like she might disappear. You're insane, he muttered against her mouth. You're one to talk. I'm serious, Zaraya. That was reckless and dangerous, and it worked. Yamamoto backed down. This time. But you've made yourself a target. I was already a target. Now I'm a target with teeth. She smiled. The Black Widow, remember? Jin Sang laughed, helpless and bewildered. What am I going to do with you? Love me, Zaraya said. If you're brave enough. He kissed her again, and it felt like a vow. 6 months later, Seattle belonged to them. Pacific Crest Holdings was ashes and federal charges. The trafficking routes were dismantled. The survivors were relocated, compensated, and protected by a network Jin Sang had built using Terrence's evidence and Zaraya's fury. Malik and Marcus thrived in their new school. They'd stopped flinching at loud noises. Started laughing again. Marcus wanted to be a scientist. Malik wanted to be a chef. Both wanted Jin Sang to teach them Korean. He did, every Sunday morning, while Zaraya watched and remembered what hope felt like. The penthouse was home now, not a safe house, not a hiding place, but home. With family dinners and homework battles and the ordinary chaos of children growing up loved. Jin Sang still ran his empire. Still made hard decisions and dirted his hands. But he came home to Zaraya every night and slowly, carefully, let himself believe in tomorrow. Do you regret it? Zaraya asked one night, lying in his arms, watching the city lights through bulletproof windows. Giving up your solitude? Taking on my problems? Every day, Jin Sang said. Liar. He smiled. Maybe. But even if I did, I'd do it again. You were worth the risk. We were worth the risk, she corrected. All of us. Yes. You were. Zaraya kissed him, slow and deep and full of the future they were building together. I love you, Jin Sang Kwon. Even though you're a criminal and a killer and terrible at cooking. I love you too, Zaraya Williams. Even though you're stubborn and reckless and have terrible taste in men. You're not that terrible. I'm a Korean Mafia boss. And I'm the Black Widow. We're a matching set. He laughed, genuine and free, and held her tighter. Outside, Seattle glittered, a city built on rain and coffee and secrets, where a Korean gangster and an African-American widow had found something worth fighting for. Not redemption. Not forgiveness. But something close enough to love that it felt like home. And in the end, that was enough. And that's how a billionaire Korean mafia boss and a Black Widow found their way out of the darkness and into something that looked like love. If this story gave you all the feels, hit that like button and subscribe for more dark romance and mafia drama. Drop a comment telling me, Team Jin Sang or Team Zaraya? And let me know what kind of story you want next. More mafia romance? Forbidden love? Enemies to lovers? I read every comment. Until next time, remember, sometimes the most dangerous love stories are the ones worth fighting for. I'll see you in the next one.